And in a certain sense, it reminds one of Korihor in the Book of Mormon. You denounce the sanity of the righteous by calling them fanatical. And again, that cuts across all disciplines.
The principle is, if you can't refute the doctrine,
then you attack the person.
Absolutely. Assassinate the character.
Just one other small point, but I think it does come out in the ministry of Enoch, and that is, once a prophet is commissioned, the Lord protects them until they have fulfilled that ministry. I'm impressed. Moses 6:32, and the Lord said unto Enoch, Go forth and do as I have commanded thee, and no man shall pierce thee. Open thy mouth, and it shall be filled. So as long as that mantle's on there, the Lord is going to make sure that message goes forth, as long as, of course, people they hear.
Abinadi is a good example of that. He says, you see, you have no power over me until I've delivered my message. Then when I'm done, it'll be the Lord's will. And by the way, what happens to me is going to happen to you.
As was Joseph Smith.
Well,
as was Noah, the giants of the land that tried to take his life, and he's protected.
But you've got to take the story right back to the beginning. Before Adam and Eve leave home, father and mother insist that they be properly clothed.
That's right.
You see, they clothed the men, garments of skins. What did they do? They took, we teach them the law of sacrifice. We take the skins of some lambs and we clothe them in them. Now, again, the significance of this just can't be lost in the story we're telling. Adam and Eve, you're going to go out in this lone and dreary world, you're going to have all kinds of opposition, all kinds of problems, all kinds of difficulties.
Dangers.
All kinds of dangers. Just list all of the effects of the fall. Now, if you will remember that I've clothed you in a garment of protection, which is to be a constant reminder to you that in and through the blood of the Lamb, you will overcome all of the effects of the fall. And now the principle becomes universal.
And thus all things were confirmed unto Adam by an holy ordinance, which is the atonement of Jesus Christ, the sacrifice.
Yeah. And the whole thing ties together. And again, the story reaches from the beginning of time to the end of time. That's what the account says. That same priesthood, which was in the beginning, will be in the end also. And if the priesthood is the same, then the doctrines will be the same, and the ordinances will be the same, and the promises will be the
covenants are going to be the same.
But we see a constantly repeating story here. A prophet comes and teaches, and he's generally rejected, and it's the gospel of Jesus Christ that's rejected, and destruction follows. Mm-hmm. And in these last days where we now live, a prophet is preaching to us the gospel of Jesus Christ, and if we don't listen, we too will be destroyed, just as the people at Noah's time, or the Nephites, or the Jarebites, or
But you send a missionary out tracting, it's the same thing. So if you just go from door to door, worldwide, the statistics say 1 in 2,000 will join the church. After you've knocked on 2,000 doors and been rejected 1,999 times, then you'll find one person. You see, this world, it's not a very marketable message in the world. So, we have to make some kind of transition to make the message interesting and exciting.
Maybe one final thing. We learned something about, and maybe we haven't said this exactly, we've learned that the prophets learned their place in terms of their sons of God. But notice what we have that we just passed over quickly in Moses 1:39. We have a statement about the place of man. When you talk about man is God's work in glory, I mean, that's really a statement. Think about what that implies, but that isn't stated. It's saying something about God is, but what man is. Through the centuries, you have doctrine that proves to be degrading. You have doctrine that makes men and women into depraved creatures who have no capacity to do anything. They couldn't choose wisely or well if they wanted to. But you have revealed, yes, we learn that there's a fall, and yes, we learn there are consequences, but we have revealed through this, through prophets, the knowledge that men and women are the same kind of being as God is, and that God is in the people business. That's what He does. He does people.
And prophets then are part of the process by which God is able to give us himself. That is to say, he calls people to introduce himself to people. He calls one of us to be the messenger.
And then there's no sense of infallibility in the messenger. These are just humble sticks, as
And
it
they're
were.
the first one to point that out
Yeah.
to us.
They're the most sensitive to
Right. And in the midst of all of this, then, with all these examples of these remarkable prophets of the past, we have Joseph Smith history in the Pearl of Great Price with his personal experience, which is filled with parallels that same way, where we say he is a prophet. His pattern is the very same as what we've seen
Absolutely.
in those that have come before.
With his first vision, he restores the true knowledge of God that for 2,000 years philosophers and theologians have been arguing about and getting wronger and wronger, if we can use that term, and in 5 minutes restores the perfect knowledge of God to us.
So that all the cobwebs of the past begin to be swept away with one revelation.
One revelation. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling what we learn in just that little bit of time that Joseph received that revelation. A testimony again of how important prophets are. You know, men can get together and argue for centuries and come up with trash, and a prophet in 5 minutes can give us the truth.
Well said.
It's humbling.
Well, I think I'm more convinced and even more in awe of the tremendous contribution that the Pearl of Great Price gives me about the importance of prophets. But we live in a day where we have a living prophet. I think we appreciate President Hinckley better and his tremendous role and what he's doing for us today. Maybe we could conclude with, from the very end after the Joseph Smith history, as Oliver Cowdery wrote about his experience of his association with the prophet. These were days never to be forgotten. To sit under the sound of a voice dictated by the inspiration of heaven awakened the utmost gratitude of this bosom. You can feel in that the awe, even though he knows he is a man. But here's a man who has the mantle of a prophet. Let me just go on with Brother Cowdery. It was easy to be seen, as the prophet said it would be, that darkness covered the earth and gross darkness the minds of the people. On reflecting further, it was as easy to be seen that amid the great strife and noise concerning religion, none had authority from God to administer the ordinances of the gospel. For the question might be asked, have men authority to administer in the name of Christ, who deny revelations, when his testimony is no less than the spirit of prophecy, and his religion based, built, and sustained by immediate revelations in all ages of the world, when he has had a people on the earth? If these facts were buried and carefully concealed by men whose craft would have been in danger if once permitted to shine in the faces of men, they were no longer to us, and we only awaited for the commandment to be given, arise and be baptized.
Yeah.
What a tremendous privilege to be led by a prophet and to recognize him as such, and to know that that is a legacy that's gone on since the beginning of time.